Everybody, welcome back to the Players Perspective. We have a special guest today, my guy Dave Logan, the voice of the Broncos, legendary high school coach, played all three professional sports. That's got to feel good when people say that. I mean, Major League Baseball, football, and basketball. Just one of a really good friend, somebody that I've gotten to know over a decade now. I've known you for 10 years. That is...
means one of us is getting old.
But it's been incredible to get to know you, man, and really appreciate you joining.
No, happy to do it, and great to see you having this kind of success.
I appreciate it. Well, let's just jump right into overall feeling of the Broncos offseason. How are you feeling about the offseason?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I'm like my sense of how the fans are, to tell you the truth. I'm really, really excited about what this season can be. I think without question, they're on the right track. I think they've added pieces at key spots that they had to have. I think when you talk about an Evan Engram, I think I'm excited to see, and you were his teammate. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see him just in some of the brief OTAs that I saw. Really smooth athlete for being that size. He runs, he moves sort of like a big wide receiver, not as you would expect a tight end to move. Mm-hmm. And I like the R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins additions. I think I think last year, if the Broncos were to go back, and I'm sure they have, look at their running game, I thought there were some yards, maybe significant yards that were left on the field. And so you've got two guys. One is a proven back in this league, and if Dobbins is healthy, he breaks tackles. He's got really good feet inside, and yet he's explosive enough that he can run away from people. And Harvey, going back and looking at some of his stuff at UCF, broke a lot of tackles, good in the passing game. Yes, he's got to improve in pass pro, in blitz pickup, but those are things young players can learn. So, yeah. I mean, from an offensive standpoint, I think they've added some pieces that are really going to be good for them this year.
Yeah, and Sean does a really good job of teaching early on, and I think R.J. Harvey will get a lot of reps, got a lot of reps during OTAs, and will get a lot of reps during training camp to help with the blitz pickup.
Yep.
What would you give the grade of the offseason?
Well, that's hard. I think as a former player, you understand. I know you do. I'm pretty sure I do. It's all on paper.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these guys have to go out and play.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like Barron, the first-round pick. I think not signed yet, not worried at all about that. I think he's going to be a really versatile guy. Harvey's the second-round pick. But I would say, really, with the additions, I think it's been a B+ kind of off season, mm-hmm. And you got to see these guys how they fit into the system. How if the system's going to change a little bit. I don't think Sean will change a lot of what he does, but I think really good coaches, and I think he's one of them, will tweak things once they can sort of figure out the ability of a certain player, what he's really good at, what he likes, maybe what he's not as good at as we thought he might be. So I think right now, before they even put a helmet on to start training camp, I would give him a B+.
I'm right there with you, and I totally agree with you 100%. It looks great on paper, but
got to go play.
We don't play football in shorts, so even watching some of the guys run out there, and I was looking at some of the drills that Pat Bryant was doing, I was like, yeah, it looks really smooth. There are no pads on. And now, it's different 11 on 11 when you get into training camp, and what do those legs look like in training camp? What does it look like in preseason? And then once you get to the season, but I definitely give the Broncos an A-, just because I think free agent-wise, they had great culture fits. Hufanga, great culture fit.
Yep.
Greenlaw, culture fit. Evan Engram, culture fit. And then the guys they drafted, most of them stayed at their university for more than 3 years. I don't think a lot of transfer portal kids. Jahdae Barron, I mean, the way he handled his being drafted in the first round and then putting himself on speaker with everybody to thank them.
Yeah.
Those are great culture fits, and I think that makes for a great team. And I know Sean is really big on culture, so that's why I give them the A- because of how these pieces fit into the culture and creating a championship organization.
And I spoke only on the offensive side of the ball, obviously with Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga, Talanoa Hufanga. I'm going to have to get used to saying that name. I mean, you hope that they're going to be able to stay healthy. I think that's the big key. Yeah. They've been really good players when healthy, but we both know that it's a tough business, and you're going to get battered and you're going to get banged up. You're going to lose guys. It's just the nature of what those guys go through in the NFL. So, and Pat Bryant, I think, is an interesting pick, a 3rd-round pick. You look at some of the draft prognosticators, and they had him maybe a 4th-round pick. I saw one that had him a 5th-round pick. All of that really is completely irrelevant. I think it was apparent that Sean liked his, and the rest of those involved in the draft, they liked his skill set. Mm-hmm. They liked his competitiveness. They liked his ability to dig safeties out, and they liked his ability to make 50-50 catches. So he played faster than he ran in some of the tape that I saw at Illinois. So I think he just adds another. I mean, you want to have, you can relate to this, you want to have more than one guy that when you throw it to him, and even if the coverage is good, you feel really confident that dude is going to come down with the ball. You got to have a couple of those guys. You got to have a couple of guys that can take the top off a secondary, that you can throw the ball deep. But to continue drives on 3rd down and 7, 3rd down and 10, things get very, very tight. Windows are very small in the NFL, and you got to have a couple of what I call ball-catching Jessies that when I throw the ball to you, I just know you're going to find a way to come down with it.
100%. Yeah, contested catches, that's what separates the great offenses from just the mediocre ones is the tight window throws, the throws against 2-man, the throws against a whole shot in cover 2.
Yep.
Just those little things. So with that being said, that is a great segue to just the receivers. I have a bold prediction, and I haven't really shared this with anybody, but I think Courtland Sutton goes over 1,500 yards this year because of the addition of Evan Engram.
Okay.
The progression of Marvin Mims going into his 3rd year. Is it 3rd or 4th year? Third year. Troy Franklin being better, but then also Devon Vele. I have him going over 1,500 yards. I don't necessarily know if he'll have more catches, but I have him going over 1,500 yards because of the addition of Evan Engram and him being another big body receiver / tight end. Thoughts?
I would agree with you. I think that's a bold prediction. I really like Courtland. I like him as a dude to start with. I like him as a person, but I think he's been a productive guy for the Broncos. I think he's been a really good receiver. I don't know if I could see him. I mean, listen, I hope you're right. Because if he goes over 1,500, I mean, they're going to be really good on offense. Realistically, I think that may be a little steep. Everything else you said, I agree with. I think the key maybe to what they do outside is going to be how they employ Evan Engram. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that you can attach. You can line him up inside, but I also think he's got enough ability that when you put him outside, you force the defense to declare, of course, who are you going to put on him? Are you putting a corner out there? Are you taking a safety out of the box, right? Is it a linebacker? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, I think Engram and his production in this offense will go a long way to sort of establish who's going to be on the outside. I'll tell you the guy that I think, Pat Bryant is interesting to me only because the head coach has said unbelievably good things about him and he hadn't played it down in Denver. So if I'm a wide receiver, we both played wide receiver in the league.
Yep.
And you know how it is when somebody is drafted at your position. I mean, it's like a German Shepherd puppy whose ears hear a whistle like you took him. Where'd you take him? And so he's a 3rd round pick. And then Sean talks about everything that you and I just talked about, how competitive he is and how tough he is and how he's faster than he appears in terms of his combine time.
Compared to Michael Thomas.
Yeah, compared him to Michael Thomas. So if I'm everybody else in that room, including Courtland, I mean, I'm coming to camp like with a huge chip on my shoulder. I'm coming to camp and basically saying, hey, listen, I'm glad you're here. And we're all in this for one reason, to help this team win. But I'm going to make sure you get none of my stuff.
Yeah.
You ain't getting my snaps. And the way that receivers go about that is they're just too good to be taken off the field.
Yeah.
So I think Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin, both those guys together, I'm anxious to see Mims, do they use him as much in the jet sweep game, in the quick screen game? Do they employ him a little bit more in vertical attacks? I thought Franklin got better. He dropped too many balls early in the season, but I thought he got better as the year went on. And he has that one thing that you can't teach. He's got that ability to take the top off.
100%. And I totally agree with you. I think the competition in that room is going to make a lot of people uncomfortable.
Yep.
And that to me only brings out that only brings out the best in everybody during training camp, and then also going to bring out the best of everybody during the season, because you are now competing for who is going to get these slants or go routes designed for them to get open. We know Evan Engram is going to be the number one tight end, but who's going to be that receiver after Courtland? It's going to be interesting to see. I wonder if Devon Vele, does he continue to emerge as the number 2? Because I think he's been incredible. I thought he had a great rookie year for being a 7th round pick, 43 catches. I watched a lot of Troy Franklin's film. I logged into the PFF, and to what you're speaking about, what he has, you cannot teach. The vertical speed. He missed a couple of big box fades early on in the season, but there was nobody around him. I think that's one of the most important things that I saw, is that, okay, he dropped one, and there are a couple that he didn't connect with Bo. One of those things where I think he was slowing down as a receiver because he's a little nervous. You got to put your head down and run when the ball is being thrown like that in the league. But there's no DB within 2 to 3 yards. So I think that's really exciting for him. And Sean was talking about him a lot during OTA. So I'm curious to see how he shows up. But who do you think takes the step forward in terms of the number 2 receiver after Courtland?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. One that will be interesting to follow in training camp with the 3 preseason games. When I look at, you look at Courtland, who's been such a good player here for a long time. You look at Devon Vele. You mentioned 43 catches last year, and now you look at Pat Bryant. I mean, Courtland's a little bigger, but if you looked at those 3 players, to me, I mean, they're similar.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, in terms of body size, in terms of physicality, Courtland's a little bit bigger. But even back when I played, having been sort of one of those guys, you got to make sure that the mixture of the receiving core has the top end speed that will benefit the guys that I just talked to. It's not like Courtland can't run, right? And you're going to see him. We saw him. I mean, in Kansas City at Arrowhead. I mean, he ran right by the corner on a deep ball and caught a touchdown. But you've got to have, I think, other guys on the field. You don't have to, but I think it benefits the offense when you have a speed guy, and that's where the phrase. Not control receiver, but what's the phrase of the receiver that we so often got labeled? Possession receiver.
Yep.
Man, I hated that. I hated that term.
That means we get open. We can do stuff in the slot. Means? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, for some of us, it meant like, what, you don't think I can run? Go back and check the combine. I mean, but you've got to have a speed guy or 2 with guys like. And again, I'm not saying Courtland can't run. I'm not saying Vele can't run.
But he's not your Emmanuel Sanders. Your Emmanuel Sanders is your take the top off the defense type of player.
So I think the question for that I'm really interested in seeing how Sean utilizes three guys that when you look at them, to me, there are a lot of similarities between those three. So how do you get them? What are you going to do with them?
Yeah.
I mean, Michael Thomas pretty much stayed on the field all the time at that position. So when you compare a rookie who hasn't played to Michael Thomas, what does that say to Devon Vele? And what does it say in particular to Courtland Sutton? I think those are things that have yet to be established, and I think are really going to be interesting to watch in camp.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch the battle between those three because they're vying for that exposition in the choice routes / the slants, the intermediate under routes.
You're going to get a lot of balls at that position.
100%. I mean, that's 100+ targets. I'm talking with Marcus Colston next week to talk about that because when I was talking to him last week on the phone, he said Sean definitely has a type. And talking about the receiver core that he had in New Orleans, he played for Sean for 10 years. I told him about Vele and Courtland, and he's like, yep, they're all similar, same size. And, you got your Lance Moore, who's the Marvin Mims, jet sweep, quick outs. It's going to be interesting to see. Where do you see Bo going in year 2? You hear about a lot of growth from year 1 to year 2 for the quarterback, and not even just for the quarterback, but for players in general. But where do you see him going, and what are you most excited about for him?
Yeah, I think I was so pleasantly surprised with how good he was last year. The first couple of weeks, he doesn't have a touchdown pass. He throws 4 interceptions. And then he just seemed like he settled in. And I thought, for the most part, just had a great season in his rookie campaign. I think the thing for this upcoming season, and everybody talks about it, will a second-year quarterback who started his rookie year, does he necessarily have to take a step back? Here's what I think in terms of how the league views that. Defensive coordinators, all these guys, head coaches to a lesser degree, but defensive coordinators and guys that set up a defense and guys that are going to be playing the Broncos, especially twice, they go back when they're not working on the draft or free agency or whatever, and they're going to evaluate their season. They're going to go back and look at every single tape, and they'll look at, with respect to the Chiefs and the Raiders and the Chargers, they'll look at the Broncos twice, and how did we play them, and what success did they have, and what can we do differently? And then they go back and look at every single throw that quarterbacks that they're going to play this upcoming season made. So in the case of Bo Nix, they'll go back and they'll have cut-ups on every one of his throws, right? Completion, incompletion, and they'll divvy it up. What did he do well? What did he like? What did he not like? What gave him the most problems? How did we move his feet when he was in the pocket? Was he a guy that when we pressured, which way did he like to get out of the pocket? And was he accurate on the run, more so when he rolled to his right as opposed to left? If so, we'll find ways to get him moving left. So they will spend an entire offseason breaking down every single aspect of Bo's game. And so what I've said on the air before, I think with respect to Bo this year, this is why you hire Sean Payton.
Yep.
And this is why you pay him what you pay him, right?
$20 million a year.
Hey, he's and I certainly think he's up to the task. But his job now is to, and I'm sure he does, understand what I just said in terms of how other teams look at Bo Nix and try to come up with a game plan to take some of the things he likes away. Now Sean's got to devise things that they haven't seen that can enhance Bo's game in this his second year, and figure out okay, I know they're going to try to take this, and this away. So how do we counter that? What do we do to help him? The easiest thing, I think, and Bronco fans should be excited about this, is I think they addressed one thing in the running back room that will give them more efficient running. Those two backs, and Dobbins and Harvey, I think are going to be really good for this team. And when you can run it, when you want to run it, and when you can run a play and maybe it's blocked well enough for 5, and maybe the back slips out and goes 14. They didn't have enough of those runs last year.
Yeah.
Guys, if it was blocked for 5, you got 5. Well, you have to have a back and multiple backs if you're really good, where they can make somebody miss and turn something that's not really all that well blocked into a real positive play. And I think both those guys can do that. And I think that will help Bo Nix as much as anything going into year 2.
Explosive plays is what wins in the NFL, and you got to have that. A great thing for a quarterback, especially going into year 2, or just a young quarterback in general, is the running game. Very important. What do you think about Bo taking more or running the ball a little bit more? I know he had the back injury, so Broncos fans, I understand that he had the back injury. But what do you think about more RPO options now with Dobbins, Harvey? Bo obviously can do a lot with his legs, but then you have this dynamic ability with Evan, Courtland. I think there's a lot of things you can do in the RPO game. I mean, you've seen Kansas City do it a little bit where Patrick does have to take off.
Yep.
Obviously, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, some of these guys who have been super mobile, and then obviously Josh Allen. There's a lot of RPO with them. Do you think Sean does a little bit of that? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think I would categorize Bo as a quarterback who can run, but not a running quarterback.
Right.
I think he's pretty athletic. He's a little more athletic, I think, than anybody thought he might be. And he's got a real good sense, at least he showed last year, a sense of when a play's done. You have to, that's really important for receivers, for running backs, for anybody that is toting the ball. You have to understand when a play is done. You got to be able to get down and survive and live to fight another day. So I think there are 2 guys really, maybe 3 in Jaden Daniels. But when you talk about Josh Allen and you talk about the Ravens quarterback,
Lamar Jackson.
Yep. I mean, those guys, people don't have any idea. I mean, you don't have a full idea about how big. Josh Allen is 6'5" and 240 pounds. And Lamar Jackson, even though he lost some weight last year, still is about 215 pounds, 6'2"-ish. Incredible athlete. They can run quarterback counters and at times quarterback sweeps. And Sean did a little bit of that with Bo last year, especially against New Orleans.
Yep.
Design quarterback runs. To answer your question, yeah, I think occasionally, I think you may see some RPO stuff just to keep the backside edge guy honest about stuff. I don't think you're going to see 5, 6, 7 design quarterback runs every game because listen, you got to keep that guy healthy. I mean, Bo's got to stay healthy, and it's hard enough to stay healthy when you're not running the ball and design quarterback runs. So maybe not as much as some of those other guys who are just bigger athletes, but certainly you'll keep defense honest.
Yeah, your 3rd and 3s, your 4th and 1s,
right.
You're got to have situations. I could see Bo on the move. Let's talk a little bit about the defense as we wrap up here. Top 5 defense last year. What does success look like for them in 2025?
Well, they were really good rushing the passer, and I think to be a really good pass rushing team, and I think they have the talent to do so. You got to be good on 1st and 2nd down. You've got to be able to put your opponent into a third and we have to pass situation. When teams can, and that's why 1st and 2nd down are so important in the NFL from an offensive standpoint. I mean, when you can get to 3rd down and 2 or 3, then occasionally you can slip a run in there, right? Yeah, or the ball comes out before the pass rush can get there. I think one of the most frustrating things for elite pass rushers is they line up and they rush and they line up and they rush, and if the ball is gone and the ball comes out with 3 steps and the ball is gone, I mean, they get tired.
Yeah.
They get tired of
and
fighting offensive tackles, and as soon as we get there, the ball's gone. They get frustrated, which is exactly what you want from a mindset thing if you're an offensive coach. So I think they've got a chance. I love the addition of Barron. I think he is a multi-talented young guy. I had a player of mine that was on that Texas team. He too was drafted, and I asked him about Barron, he said he's just an unbelievably smart player, which is what you want. I mean, you got to have the requisite talent athletically to play in this league, and he certainly does. But what you really want is a whole bunch of smart guys on the field.
Yeah.
And I think Barron's going to be. He's going to give them the ability to at times play the nickel. At times he'll play outside. You've got Pat Surtain, you've got Riley Moss, who I think Riley's going to have a good year. I know some people are
Thoughts
sort
on
of
that?
down on him.
Yeah, why is that?
I watched him a lot in camp last year. Man, he's not quite as big as Surtain, but he's bigger than your average corner. He's long, really competitive, and he runs better than you would think a white corner might run. Right? I mean, there aren't many white corners. There aren't many white wide receivers. So you got to be able, you have to have enough athletic ability and speed. He certainly does. He's not shy on speed or athletic ability. So I think last year, he didn't play, the rookie year he was hurt.
Yeah.
So last year, in essence, to me, was his rookie season. And so you learn so much playing corner out there. I mean, rookies, guys that don't have a lot of experience, to me, that's the hardest position to play.
Yep.
Because an offense with receivers, they look for like, oh, you're a rookie or like you've never played?
Yeah, it's
like
a pick on guy.
Year? Yeah. Hey, believe you're going to get some business.
Right.
So I think he's going to be good. Hufanga brings a real toughness, another smart guy to the secondary. And Jones is a really good safety as well. So I think, again, the position that is of most interest when you go to camp to watch is that inside linebacker spot. I think the Broncos feel like, that Drew Sanders is a guy, great size and athletic ability and speed, coming off that Achilles injury last year, came back late in the season, but he's had an entire offseason to heal and get himself ready to go. You hope that Singleton is going to be able to bounce back from the Achilles or from the ACL, and you hope that Greenlaw is going to be healthy and the kind of player that he is shown to be when he's on the field.
Yeah, I think Greenlaw bring that. I mean, we haven't had that type of toughness here to me since Trevathan, Akeem, TJ Ward, where like you got to worry about the other guy. Just might be a couple personal fouls in there. Akeem's been on the podcast where, we might leave with a couple of personal fouls, but the tone will be set. Yeah.
You got to have, I think, every great defense, if you go back and look, and even though it's been sort of outlawed in the NFL today, which is fine, but every great defense has a couple of guys that, as like a former wide receiver, when we played the Steelers or when we played the Raiders, you had to be aware of like, okay, where is Jack Tatum? Where's Donnie Shell? Where are they? What coverage are they in? And what part of the field are they lined up in? So I went out to one of the OTA practices. Dre wasn't practicing, but he was in practice gear. And he walked right by me and I was struck like, oh my, that's what a Mike linebacker looks like. He is, I don't even know how to, I know what I said at the time, which I won't be able to say on the air, but he looks the part. And anybody who's followed the league, you've watched San Francisco, when he's healthy, he makes a ton of plays.
Yeah, hits super hard, him and Fred Warner. That was an incredible duo there. What was your favorite call last year? Favorite play that you called last year?
Oh, wow. Favorite play that I called? Well, the 93-yard touchdown pass Nix to Mims against the Browns out of the north end zone. To tell you the truth, when the ball left Bo's hands, I remember saying to myself, "That's a pick. That's going to get picked," and it didn't. And 93 yards later, Mims is high stepping into the south end zone. That was a big play. I think the play.
Before you go there, what made you think that it was going to get picked? Because it was cover two safeties, and then in the linebacker was running with him. Do you
Yeah,
think he just put too much air on it?
No, it was Tampa 2, and I thought, and it was what I call it was an invert. And so the corner, in other words, the corner played half, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought he got to the half in time and started making a break in the ball just as the ball was let go, which then it becomes just sort of, you got to stopwatch and say, is this ball going to be in the air a little bit too long? And I think he was there to make the play. He didn't make the play, which was great news. Great news for the Broncos. But and then I think the play in Cincinnati when Bo on a designed pocket move bought himself some time and then threw what I call a deep over to Mims. I was just astounded how many yards in the air that ball flew. In fact, when he let it go and Mims caught it about 8 yards deep in the end zone, I had to go back and look at the replay and then figured that ball, and I said on the broadcast, that ball was in the air 65 yards. Now, there are guys that can throw the ball 65 yards, but that was one of the sort of concerns that I heard about Bo Nix coming out of Oregon. Man, he didn't, he sort of nickels and dimes you, and he dinks and dunks. I mean, he's got plenty of arm strength to play and be a really good player in this league, and showed it on that play.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. Last question. We are celebrating the 10th year anniversary of the Super Bowl team this coming fall. Favorite memories from that season? What sticks out from that season? Are there any stories that you know from behind the scenes from that Super Bowl 50 team that come to mind?
Oh, gosh. You know what I remember? I mean, I have so many good memories about that team. If you go back and look at, you don't have to because you were there, but there were, I believe, 12 one-score games in that particular season.
Jeez.
And when you think about Super Bowl 50, you think about a dominating defense, you think about an offense that did what they had to do, came up with some big plays at key times. But the reality of that season is there were plenty of games that were hanging in the balance late in the game. I remember an interception in the end zone against the Vikings that sealed the win. Mm-hmm. The big win over the Patriots and finding a way, even though it looked like the Patriots are going to get back in it, and drove down and scored with Brady to Gronk. But so many guys making plays. And then in the Super Bowl, what struck me, and I've said this before, we get there about 4 hours before the game. We might even get there before y'all got there. And I'm watching players warm up on the field. And when you guys came out, special teams and some of the skill guys to warm up, I mean, it was all business. When the Panthers came out, I mean, it was like the Mardi Gras. I mean, it was like they were clowning. I'm thinking to myself, man, they to me don't look like they're really taking the Broncos all that serious. And then just the defense was overwhelming. Vaughn in the strip sack and the recovery in the end zone for a touchdown. And I mean, it was just one of those games that you guys played so well on defense and played well enough on offense that you got a big fat ring.
Yep. Can eat for free in a lot of places.
I'll bet you can.
I did ask Mark Schlereth this last week, the 98 Super Bowl team versus that defense. How does that play out?
The 98 offense against that defense?
Against that defense.
Well, Stink would probably, I mean, he was on the 98 team, so he's probably going to defer to them. I think that would have been a hell of a game. I really do. The Broncos in 98, Terrell went over 2,000.
Yep.
In the Super Bowl, they play the Falcons. They win that like 34-19, I think. And Terrell really, John threw for over 300. So they had an ability to line up. What they wanted to do was line up and run it and run it until you were forced to bring a safety down. And then you had two really good outside guys, and Rod Smith and Eddie McCaffrey. You got a Hall of Fame tight end in Shannon.
Yeah.
And you got a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame running back. So they had dudes as well. That would be just that would be a fabulous game to sort of set up and watch. And I think the 2015 Broncos offense, I think it would have been interesting to see what they could have done against the 98 Broncos defense.
Yeah.
Right. Because both units, it's curious to say this, you've got Payton and a bunch of really good players on offense. And, you had really good players in the Broncos defense, Alfred Williams and that whole crew. I think it would have been interesting. I think both of those units individually were a bit underrated because of the magnitude of excellence on the other side of the ball of those respective teams.
Yeah. It would have been incredible to see. We'll never know, but Dave Logan, voice of the Broncos, man, great to see you.
Great seeing you, Benny.
Best of luck this season.
And to you.
On all things, man. Really appreciate you.
You bet.
All right, thanks.